Yeah. Ibrahim, let me come to you. The NPP had a similar policy as the Feed Ghana. How can us feeding ourselves, contribute to our national food security?
Sure. But let me start by saying good morning to Wanda. Good to be on the program with him, of course, Elvis, and our viewers, and yourself, Anna.
Thank you.
A nice addition. Yes, the NPP, we had several policies to secure self-sufficiency, improve agribusiness, and increase agriculture's input within our GDP. We had planting for food and jobs. There were two iterations, phase 1 and phase 2.
Yeah.
And then you had rearing for food and jobs. Then also we had aquaculture as well for food and jobs. So both within the normal agriculture areas, cereals and crops. Then you had animal husbandry, goats, sheep. And then of course you had the aquaculture as well. So we were looking at all the key components of agriculture, or the food production and distribution area, and how to, through policy, investment and incentives, to really bring about as much produce from Ghana to make us less reliant on imports from specifically Burkina Faso for its tomatoes and onions. And that's what the NPP did. We recognize that agriculture for some time had failed. When I say failed, in terms of production. In 2015 thereabouts, agriculture in fact declined 3.2% year upon year. So we had to change the narrative and make farming attractive. And that's what these policies were designed to do. By making sure that, for example, taking out the risks from investment. You say to the farmers, let's grow our food, but there's money and investment linked to it. What happens if there's issues of pesticides and what have you, the lack of. So we wanted to make sure that in that whole construct of rearing for food and jobs, planting for food and jobs, all the component inputs, if you want to help somebody, help them comprehensively. So there were subsidies on fertilizers, which is a key part. Of course, human beings as we are, some people then took advantage of that and started stealing the fertilizers and taking it or rebagging it to Burkina Faso and Togo and other areas. That's a different conversation.
Yeah.
But I want to answer your question as to what the NPP did. We looked at making sure that pesticides, you can grow food, but again, nature is nature. How can you equip that environment to be robust against, pesticides and parasites?
Yeah.
So again, those inputs were equally given. Then mechanization, we had the mechanization centers across the country, whereby instead of the usual hoe and cutlass, I'm not saying that hoe and cutlass has been with us ever since, but there was a concerted effort, to make sure that farmers had access to mechanization centers, your tractors and other farming inputs or mechanisms, whereby they could be leased. If you didn't have the money, at least you could lease those mechanical inputs to make sure that now you can plow, acres of land in a fraction of the time, And so these were some of the things that are all embedded or infused within the planting for food and jobs, the rearing for food and jobs, which is the animal husbandry, the goats, the cattle, the chicken, and what have you. And then again, aquaculture. Rearing, but producing fish within an urban setting and not necessarily having to be river fed in order to produce that. So these were the inputs we did. And I think that administration upon administration, our goal as Ghana has been to make sure that we put agriculture first. We are generally an agrarian economy. Yeah. Yes, we found oil in 2008, 2007, 2008, but agriculture is our mainstay. Presently, in 2024, it constituted 20% of our GDP.
Right.
That's 1/5.
Right.
It used to be a lot more, which is good. That it's reduced in other areas of the economy are also services, oil, gold, industry, manufacturing are also improving their share of our GDP. But agriculture is the mainstay. Employs if I get the numbers wrong, I'm sure people will quickly search on the internet and correct me.
You.
But I mean, you're looking at a good 60% of the workforce. I'm hoping to be corrected. When you have a large amount of your workforce, over 50%, let me put that clarification in that sector, you have to make sure that you extract as much efficiency out of it, whereby, and I think Wanda was alluding to it, when there's agribusiness, and it's been started before administration upon administration, we really need to see how we can elevate farming to a point that it's such a key pillar of the economy throughout the value chain.
Right.
From growing to packaging to producing to processing, so that everything you want is here. What I would also want for us to do is to look at the dairy industry. I mean, the figures are there. I may be incorrect, but if you're...
I don't think we've really tapped into the dairy
industry.
We have not.
And it's something that I've mentioned on so many other platforms before. Do you know what we use generally milk for in this country? When I say milk, I'm talking processed milk.
The
Wagashi.
Milo. Oh, is it? Okay.
You know wagashi?
Yes, I know wagashi.
It's the cheese that is fried.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you go across the country, you find that we're importing our cheeses, the fan milks that we have, the fan ice that we have, then our Carnation, our Ideal Milk. I'm not giving anybody brand prominence. I'm sure they'll pay you advertisers later. But you see that we consume a lot of dairy products. But what is our input in manufacturing? Again, I wish I'd done additional research on this part for the program. Africa alone, close to $600 million of importation of dairy products.
Right.
Importation, I'm hoping I'm wrong. I know it's a little higher than that. If we could actually produce that, and we don't. We have the cattle, we have the herds to actually tap into that aspect of animal husbandry. But now it's just the meat that we are consuming.
Right.
Even the hide, which some time ago we were used for leather.
Yeah.
The whole leather industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry. What do we use leather for, or the hide in this country?
We chew it.
We chew it, willy. And there's no nutritional benefit whatsoever. It's like the keratin in your nail.
Right.
Chew keratin, chew your nail, see if there's any nutrition. There's nothing.
Right.
So again, it's about connecting the dots, whereby government can help. It doesn't have to be government centered, but it can be government driven to say that, look, instead of us using car tires, old car tires, to burn the hide, am I right?
Yeah.
For the willy that we now consume, which is carcinogenic, because the fumes within those petroleum, products, car tires, it enters the skin of the cow, it's porous, and it will maintain some of it, then we go and chew it.
Yeah.
And then you get cancer, and you will say, oh, where for this? So I'll end on this point.
Okay.
So I think a dairy industry is something that we can also productively put our concentration on and see how best we can also add value to that whole revenue stream.
All right.